audiences. The audience is intersection of conscious creators, network state people, and technologists. Everyone knows you, Sam. You don't really need an introduction, but I'd like you to be creative about the way that you present yourself. When people actually don't know you in the spaces, what's the most universal way that you talk about yourself? How would you like to be seen as?
Yeah, thank you. I guess I am a generalist, someone a bit at the intersection of different worlds, having dabbled in technology, having grown up in ecological conservation, and having traveled a lot to most parts of the world, not all corners yet, but yeah, quite well traveled. And this is what I've been bringing together in my project as well, trying to tie together some ideas around creating ecological nests that are economically sovereign and that are integrated to the digital infrastructure that creates our society these days.
How important it is to have a digital infrastructure. For example, communities that are more of like hippie communities, communes, farms, they don't have the technological infrastructure. So, what's your competitive advantage here? Why do you think we need to have a tech layer?
I think there's a few reasons. One is like, well, I'll go through the different reasons, but so one is simply like, for example, fundraising. Hippie communes have always had trouble raising money to fund development, just because there's not enough level of trust and coordination and just like financial backing that can go into these things. So by creating new forms of legal structures that are more investable, where there's more of a market built around it so that people can come and go, that alleviates the fundraising aspect of the village. And then it starts to touch into the second aspect, which is sovereignty and governance. And a lot of the hippie communes that were started in the 60s and so on, they had like a very strong ecological ideals and social ideals, but they kind of skipped the whole money part because it was a taboo subject. And because of that, I think that has created a lot of I guess like structures that were not established well enough. That is one of the reasons why a lot of communities fail. And it's also, I think, one of the reasons why a lot of communities are labeled as cults or other things, because when you don't have a clear and transparent governance protocol, then you can quickly end up in a trap of having someone in power calling the shots. And sometimes that is also what happened. Like sometimes it ended up being less idealistic when people got to the ground and actually started doing these things. So I think by creating a digital infrastructure, we can kind of frame some of these things to try to optimize the chances of success, optimizing the facility with which people can come into a project and exit a project. But I mean, this is very new and pioneering, and basically, as far as I know, TDF is the only actually Web3 village where you can just go and buy a token and use that to come and stay. So it still remains to be proven that it's a good way to fundraise and to do governance, but we're gonna give it a shot at least.
DAO structure, decentralized autonomous organization, in context of traditional dream factory, OASA, and overall network of villages. I mean, that's what really OASA is to build, from what I'm imagining, an infrastructure layer for multiple examples of what TDF can model, let's say. DAO, not to DAO, should be DAO. Do we even understand what DAO is at this point?
Yeah, I mean, basically it's it is. I guess DAOs have emerged as both more innovative, sometimes also more technocratic, sometimes also less democratic than existing legal structures.
Yeah.
But still, I think it's very, very important that we incorporate whatever innovation we can into creating new forms of governing land. And more importantly for us, what we're really trying to represent with a DAO is to really differentiate different types of right. Like, for example, when you buy the token, you get the utility of being able to stay on the land and to make decisions about how we live together on the land. But you are not given the right to, for example, step out of our regenerative land stewardship principles. And then by distributing token based on, for example, how much time you spend or how much work you put into the project, then we can start to actually also separate out like how much governance we want to distribute to different forms of capital. And that can create more equality, can create new opportunities to design new games that haven't existed so far. And this is my belief, and this is what I want to dive deeper with.
What led you to buying the land where the TDF is at? How much time did it take you to find it? And what was your career like at that point when you were able to purchase it?
I had started the idea of OASA like already in 2018.
Okay.
And at the time, I was based in the US. I was working remotely for a US corporation. So I had a lot of freedom. I was able to travel everywhere. And initially, I was looking in New York because this is where I was living. And I was looking upstate New York to create a space, basically for digital nomads, but embedded in nature. Wasn't really the right location, and I was more looking for, I guess, more sunshine and more digital nomad friendly spaces and more quality of life. So after New York, I went to South Africa and I spent a lot of time there and ended up falling a bit in love with the country and almost bought some land there. Almost started a project there, but in the end, at that point, it wasn't the right people, and there was definitely also a lot of risk with South Africa in terms of political stability, financial stability, and all that. So in the end, I'm very happy that after that, I ended up in Portugal and got stuck here during COVID, and then it just felt like the perfect place to get started. And these buildings that we started TDF in, basically, I mean, they were very affordable, like way less than you would even pay for an apartment in a city, while giving us plenty of space to create some legal real estate that could be approved as a local municipality and converted into housing. And it took us 6 months to, well, a bit less, maybe 4 months, to get a deal on the adjoining lands, because TDF is 2 properties. It's one which is a building, and then there's 25 hectares connected to it. And so we had to negotiate a deal with the owner of the land, which is that we negotiated the lease with an option to buy. So basically, we're leasing these 5 hectares where I'm sitting right now, with the option to buy the whole 25. And now we've been having that option for 4 years. And so this year, we're really looking at exercising the option and actually purchasing the land and putting into the commons.
Awesome. Good news. Nice. Are you happy with the purchase?
Yes. I mean, it's been. I mean, the land keeps. It's been a very hard 4 years so far. Like, it's much more complicated than you think starting a village, and there's just like so many things to think about, so much infrastructure, so much people saying, so much legal, so much financial. So it's just like quite overwhelming, the amount of things that you need to get through to actually build a space. But I would say right now it's also like after 4 years you're starting to really see the effects of all the work that's been put in place, and the rate of change is accelerating. The trees have fully rooted and they're starting to shoot up now. our whole water infrastructure is built, so we have a filled lake, and our pool is finished, and so all these pieces just coming together, and it's like, okay, now it's like finally the dream like actually manifesting itself into reality. And yeah, I mean, TDF definitely took me on a detour on my journey, and it's something that I guess I wasn't expecting to have to let go completely of my digital nomad life, but at this point, this is what happened. But I do hope that at some point I'll get freedom again and get the freedom to be here when I want to. But I think it's coming soon. And in the meantime, I learned a lot of beautiful lessons. And yeah, and the land just keeps on giving now. And it's like, yeah, it keeps on growing.
It's beautiful. It's a very romantic space. It's a space. I personally didn't stay there because I really like the super high comfort. That's really why. I really like it when it's like the water is running like everywhere. Everyone has their private space, but that's me. You know, I might not be your direct target customer, but I'm here to support because I'm really seeing the value of what you're building and the kind of joy that people are reflecting back to me when I ask them, what's your stay and TDF like these days? How are you feeling? And one of the biggest critiques that I hear coming from TDF, or just generally all of the actually communities of like farming and a lot of work on the infrastructure layer, is that where is the balance between volunteering versus token holders? Token holders not really doing the work, the kind of work, the infrastructure, the heavy lifting work that maybe the volunteers could be doing. How do you manage that? How do you mitigate any issues that come up in terms of like labor distribution?
I wonder who has been sending you echoes, but happy to dive into it.
I guess it's really overall. There's no one person that I would say, hey, this is the TDF problem. I would say this is an issue I see within the whole upgrowing community. You know, it's very general.
I mean, I think pre TDF, like pre us having a token, there was no real good way of giving something that looks like equity in a real estate project to people doing work on the ground.
Yeah.
And I mean, the game that we design is to try and accommodate for all level of financial capacity and like work capacity. So like you can bring different forms of capital to TDF. You can come with some money and you can buy some tokens, or you can come with some skills and building things. The idea is that everyone has to contribute something, and because we're a village, I mean that there's so many things that can be contributed that ideally anyone has something to give to TDF and to receive in exchange. And so that's why we have a volunteering program and a residency program and a team program and a stewardship program. So always different modalities in terms of how long you have to commit to the space, how much work you have to commit to the space, how much skills you need to have. And yeah, in terms of balance, I mean, it might not be perfect, but I think we have quite a range of menu that it can accommodate most people that come through here. So, you know, you might have like an online job that you have to attend, or maybe you have like a part-time job or whatever. So all of these options are basically on the table, and you can decide to play the game. And yeah, I mean, we're being a bit strict on those rules because it takes a lot of cognitive effort to create custom packages and so on. So we created those 4 different packages, and you can see which one fits for you. Like for example, working 4 hours in the morning and then having the afternoons free so you can do your own things, or committing to come and do a residency for a month and like actually owning one of the build projects. And this is like what we're really calling in right now. It's more like the builders, the people that can take responsibility and actually creating things. And they get rewarded with both free stay, free food, and they can even earn some TDF tokens when they complete projects that go against our master plan.
Are there any free riders, and how do you deal with free riders, people who come and actually, contribute less than they take?
Yeah, our previous spacers, Juliana used to call them professional chillers.
Yeah.
It's
Vibe,
I mean,
vibers.
there's definitely like there's definitely people that come and want to just volunteer and that just feel like taking a chill. But I mean, we do have quite a bureaucratic culture, and so I think generally people get inspired. And I mean, the work is generally very pleasant. Like sometimes it's a bit hard when it's in the middle of the winter and there's like some cleaning to do or whatever. But generally, when it's like doing some garden work in the sun or building a tree house, these kind of things, it's generally work that people enjoy doing. So yeah, and when people come and actually empowered to do things, I mean, we generally attract doers and dreamers. Well, the combo of the two, not just dreaming, but actually doing the thing. So generally, we don't have so many problems. Like once in a while, we get like those, like some people that really just want to chill, but then we quickly see when that's the case, and then we just offer them to stay as a guest package if they want to, and if they have too many things on their own plate to be able to contribute meaningfully to the project.
Makes sense. You